All right, part 2 of cirrhosis of the liver. And this is going to be tying into your 2025 time frame when Moses has that rod and casts it down to the ground, and that serpent years before you next year, and it's going to be crawling around up the spine. And let's break some stuff down, because we got that spice cabinet breaking open with the salt and sugar in different ways, and the sugar bowls today with that 24-hour clock put on it and such. And the Isis is being shown, and this part of that Trojan horse being opened up and such. And the imposter, or that enchanter, Ra is coming for that sun god deity, and the sun god deity is tied to the dark suns, or the sun for the dawn, but the dawn is opening up a new heaven and earth. So he has this light, and this light, and this is where Elon comes on as that birth with the Eve and the EV, and he has those oil exports in another way with those Tesla chargers. So let's get into some deep water a little bit. The enchanters and imposters, those are tied to the Antichrist. The Antichrist are tied to these dark kings that are set on the chessboard of earth for the world stage, to take us from one time to the other, to be that wicked, that villain and such. The wicked is tied to that little bit of wick that is there to get the light going on the next candlestick for the new heaven and earth. As the old one is put out, as it's put out, these wicks come together, the old wicks and stuff. It flames up when you start that new flame up, right? And then you take the old one out and, okay, so that's where we're kind of at in this world stage. And this can be as short as like a 6-month span to a 4 and 8 year span, spread out. And this is where one breaks open and then the other comes, and this is where we've seen these things for Christmas, and these things we've been tracking, and that Beyonce baby birth, that big bang that came down over the stadium and stuff. All these things are overlapping to where you're going to get that birth, and then one's going to create the other. When it creates the other, that's when they go into their so-called 6-month, 3-year, 8-year, whatever tribulation time frame that brings them in until they come out of it, if they ever come out of it, because they have been brainwashed by the image that's been given life, that they have just been given this, that, and the other, and they're going to hell forever, or that hell is upon them. That's the Antichrist upon them, and all these other things. So they can't do anything he says. We have to follow Jesus Christ, and that's the mark of the beast, and that's the lower chakra system, and all those other things, because Jesus warned you in end times there will be many teaching that he is the Christ, and that was in Matthew 24, and you just hit the end of the 24 clock, and thank God you have another year, this year for 25, to wake up as that 24 marker is coming for the 9/11 anniversary of this year, okay? So, this is when the church is going to be shaken and the world shaken, and this is where we see on New Year's Eve the birth of the ram sacrifice and the bleeding and such. This is that, and we've seen with the little mini tsunamis and these things, this is where we have a little birth coming, being set upon the earth, from a spiritual to a carnal, from a carnal to a spiritual, two worlds colliding. You're in the multiverse, okay? So, as the China and the chips and the potatoes ties to the Russias and the vodka and all those things. The bourbon's being served, the shots are being taken back, okay? The Trojan horse is being opened up, the border, all these things are going to play a role in this ring bearer, and the ring bearer is being placed on everybody. So the let me see, the sodium, Sodom, this could be where Trump can come in. If they end up doing a certified diamond to where he actually comes into a power position, he would be taken out shortly after. And this would be with the cirrhosis of the liver, that fatty liver from eating this crappy diet, and then that would give rise for Mercury to come on that would be Mercury coming after the sun goes dark, and then that's the next planet close to the sun, which is the Make America Healthy Again, and then it's also make the dark MAGA. So that healthy would be where the healthy comes in, and you got to get out sodium, and you got to get out all this fast food and all this tribulational times, and that's where the markets can crash. All these little things can stack up. All right, so that would be like a long game thing if they decide not to do this thing with Trump before the election. All right, but so that's just a chess piece move on the long game, basically, with this sodium and Gomorrah, and that's the be part of that rah, the deity of the sun, the deity of the sun. Either way, so the China, define China. All right, they banned the cells of the dual use as part of that parallel, and it said the 228, and the 28 is tied to the peace deal, but it mentions Boeing, the Lockheed Martin, that's the Lockheed, and the defense contractors. So it's tied to the three scores. That's the goods, the technologies and services. That's the serve vices. That would be coming up with either Kamala doing what she's going to be doing, and then J.D. Vance doing what he's going to be doing if Trump comes with the sodium and Gomorrah. The technologies, that's the techno and the teach technology and all these things overlaying, but that would be that techno time frame. And then the go odd DS is the goods. That DS is tied to your Nintendo Switch, that Wii Switch, and all those things. That W time frame, that W is tied to the 23. The 23 is tied to that clock setting for on the 25 for that serpent year, to realize you got an Adam and Eve, a Satan and Jesus, all these things rising, and that it tells you to basically in Revelation that let those who are righteous, let those be righteous, and those who are wicked, let those be wicked. And that's the new heaven and earth coming up in one way, to where everything is washed away, just like Jesus said. And he even said these people's righteousness is as filthy rags. So they're all wicked. So everybody is following some cult man, who's following some cult man, who's following some cult man, who's following some cult man called a church. And you're giving 10% to this so-called heaven you get to go to when you die, when Jesus tells you heaven is in you. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. The Father is in I, and I in the Father. And this connects to that light. This connects to that God. And this connects to where you connect to that mothership, and the mothership connects to you, and all these other things. All right? Without this knowledge, you're never going to have your power. All right? And it may just be the power to overcome this world setting these griefs on you. But you got to get over that first. You got to get over all these things first. The chips that everybody loves, that gets their crunchy lifestyles, all right, it's going to go from one crunch to another crunch. And as this crunchy lifestyle, this so-called vegan whatever, comes upon the earth, all right, this is where that detox, that healthy, make America healthy, all these things are going to come upon the world stage in a way, and it's just to reset things and such, because everything's all kind of messed up right now, because we got people starving, but we're throwing away, and homeless people, and got charging this much for food or whatever, but they're throwing out all this food in the back of the store. And then also, I know y'all don't want to hear it or whatever, but we have all these animals locked up in cages just waiting for a home or whatever that other countries use as food. And then America is like one of the number one exporters for horse meat. So we got to think about these things. All right. And this is part of that beast worship and these other things, and these people that have brought these animals in. And this is where the projection is a test on man, and they brought it to you through a cartoon to tell you is all make believe. All right, so the reason why people love their animals so much today is because they grow up watching animals speak. There's nothing wrong with loving animals, okay? But there's rules, boundaries, and limitations that separate so-called man from the eagle, the lion, and the ox, all right? But they want you to live as the lion, the eagle, and the ox, and that's where Jesus comes as the lion. And you got to rise up out of that lie that's been projected upon this earth as the washing tin you've been placed in, and you've turned into some old moldy laundry and stinky laundry, and it has to be thrown out. And hopefully you're one of those whites that can, with that pure consciousness that's risen up, that when we get to that state that can be and go to and get bleached, in a matter of speaking. So that bleaches is that bleat and that sheep chest where you got to go in and get washed and dunked over and over again sometimes to get from a black sheep to a white sheep. And then you can realize that, hey, I can get dirty anytime I want. There's somebody here that loves me that can wash me anytime. But they want to make you think that you're dirty all the time. It doesn't matter if you get dirty, because I'm washed. Okay? How can a spiritual church gather in the carnal? Oh, they can't. That's why Jesus never went to church. That's why the church age is going to die. That's why the old age, that church is being gathered. Those who buy Baal are going into Baal worship. Starts off telling you it's about slavery and stuff. Well, you have freedom in Genesis 1. And then Genesis 2, we got to pull you in and tell you how to live your life. You can't leave. You got to work every day. You got to dress how we tell you. You can't go over there and eat that. That's only for God to have the access to the knowledge. Oh, he ate the fruit. Oh, he became as gods. We are gods, it tells us. We are the sons of God. We are the lampstand of God. We are that living God, the Christ that we are all members of. All right, that's what Jesus taught. Your church don't teach that. Your church doesn't teach what Jesus teaches. They teach what Paul teaches in a twisted form, because Paul is actually calling out the Romans and the Hebrews. And that's why he tells you to quit doing baptisms and quit doing the doctrines of Christ. Because we are all the Christ. We are all the sons of God. And that's why Jesus told us we can do more than he can. They want to steal the inheritance and take you back to the garden. Well, Jesus is the second Adam. Jesus said, no, I'm not. He came for me. Because Jesus is that feminine spirit, that light of truth, which is the woman that conceives man. And then man, so-called, steals the inheritance by, well, we see it in our world by giving it the last name. So, if anything, we've all probably made this mistake, but the woman's name and then the man's name, or the man's name and then the woman's name, should be on the child's birth certificate. We got to track both lineages, not just one. All right, so that's where a new heaven and earth is breaking open in another way.